All right, Vlad, I have one scripted question, and then it's all off the cuff. But I put that disclaimer on there because I hate scripted conversations. But it
No
usually
problem.
opens up some interesting backstory. But how did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise backstory?
Uh, it's actually a long story. So basically, I have to start from the time that I was working in high tech, and I was a member and managerial member of one of the group. And I won't mention the company right now, even though it can be easily found. And unfortunately, we've been placed on special assignment where we had to maintain certain product for the entire year, and I was part of that group, like I said. And I had a lot of time on my head and on my hands, and that's when I decided, okay, I probably will be done with the corporate world at this moment. Um, Once I decided on that, and I haven't sent a single resume back then. Sorry, I didn't send a single resume back then. Once I decided on that, the next question for me would be, okay, what's next? And that's when I started my soul search, and that's why I started thinking, what would be the right fit for me? And when I was looking back in time, it was a combination of two things: something meaningful, something mission driven, entrepreneurial, and business, solid business opportunity. And that's how I came across home care as an industry. To me, that was perfect combination of both worlds. It was great business opportunity, but it was a great mission which came together with it. Once I settled on the industry, the next question for me was, okay, so now that I know where I'm going to be, with whom I'm going to partner? That was my next question. And I called literally upon all franchise systems that existed back in 2002. But when I met Alan Hager and his team, the question was solved for me, the answer. So I said, yes, of course, that's going to be right at home. Alan wasn't just a great manager, he was a visionary. And his team was just as great as him. And that's what settled me on right at home. That's my story in short.
I love it. So a few comments. One, you're you're on the forefront of this industry. Like you are an early adopter into it,
Right.
and what it has become. In a million years, would you have guessed that it is what it is today at that point? Did you predict that this is the direction was going? So I have to get in on the early stages.
Of course, no. First of all, I couldn't predict that I still will be here in this business 23 years later to begin with, right?
Right.
I think, okay, well, I've never worked before that anywhere for that long. You know? So, of course, that's a huge surprise for me that I'm still here and I love it. So, but of course, I couldn't predict it. No, things changed dramatically over the years. And back then, the main issue for me was to educate, because when I used to come to my referral sources or those who would potentially become referral sources, the first question from them was, what are you doing exactly? Well, we're doing home care. Okay, so you are VNA. And no, we're not VNA, which is private duty. And that's where it was a stumbling block for me because they didn't understand what the industry of private duty does and how different it is from Medicare certified. Nowadays, fast forward, I don't need to explain this.
Right.
Everybody understands the industry, at least in the professional field.
Yeah, I
So
mean
you can,
it's fascinating because like I can look at it also now have been in franchising for 20 years. I'll look at it in like a traditional marketing PR lens. If I go back to when I first started working in senior care, if we had to call a member of the media and say this is the advantage of this business, like what is this?
right.
Because it was almost defaulted when you're getting involved in the business that when you age, you go to an old person's home. Like that's what we
Right.
were grown up with. nobody ever thought that this is going to be the transformation. Now, what is also interesting, when you flash forward now 20 years, and the demand is still greater than the supply, which is crazy as well. Like, everyone's gotten educated on this. They see it as such a huge value for navigating the final stages of life and where you live and how you get treatment and service. And so it's interesting because when you start, there's not a ton of competition. Now there's a ton of competition, but
No.
it doesn't overly matter because the demand is still so high.
Yes, and frankly, I thank my competition really and sincerely, because they do education. They do an education for me as well, right? They tell other people about the industry and what the industry does. Granted, I say thank you to my great competitors, because not all competitors are great, but those who are great, and I have some really great competitors with whom I pay a lot of respect. We're working together, really, So that's how it is.
Yeah, that's another cool thing about this, because everybody, like, even you take a caregiver. A caregiver could work at multiple companies that are perceived as competitors, but the reality is that the mission ends up being very similar for the most part of all the business. So it's a weird category in that competition does want to work together, and everybody's cheerleading for each other to win and provide great
Right.
service and value, so that the
Right.
expectations continue to stay high.
That is correct. And those who don't, they know they don't last very long.
Right. That's right.
So if you want to stay in this field for a long time, you're gonna have this mentality of working together, of cooperating with your competitors, and frankly doing a great job. If you are here for money, just plain money, nothing is gonna happen.
You said you weren't expecting to be in this industry as long as you have when you started.
Right.
Do you give yourself permission to pinch yourself on such a large accomplishment, or is it like you're so focused on the next day that you don't reflect backwards?
Of course, I do reflect. That doesn't mean that I think of myself as somebody who accomplished, quote unquote, this 23 years. That's for me right now. It's my style of living. It's really the way I live. It's not just this office where I'm in, where I'm in now. It's not just this office as a part of the job. No, it's a part of my life. So I frankly cannot even imagine it to be any other way, to tell the truth. And sometimes I just turned 60, okay, and I have to be thinking about retirement, right? But I don't, because I don't want to retire.
I love that statement. I'm gonna say a comment on it, because I've been actually thinking about a lot about that statement. So many human beings talk about retirement. Why do you say retirement? It's because you don't like the job that you do. That's why, like, we celebrate, like, oh, when I'm done with this. But it's what's fascinating is you made a decision. You retired from being angry at corporate America and took things into your own hands. And my viewpoint is, when a job becomes a career, or a job becomes a mission, or a job becomes a purpose, then it's just life. And what you just said is, this isn't a job, it's not a career, it's life. And therefore retirement doesn't even matter, because as long as you're enjoying the impact that you're putting against something, it never goes away, right?
Right. And I have to say, Nick, I wasn't specifically angry at corporate America. I respect people. I know a lot of people who work at corporate America quite successfully. But to great extent, all these decisions are personal decisions, right? So we cannot say it's wrong or right. What's right for me may not be right for another person. So I'm kind of easy on that. And the way of living and retirement, careers, again, we're talking about very personal things here. Very personal.
What do you think the magic is of this run? Is it the people that you work with? Is it the customer? Like, how do you paint the picture of what has worked?
Uh, we live in certain realm. That's the realm of home care, and over this life, I met great people. And if there is any accomplishment of mine that I can point to, I think my greatest accomplishment is being able to meet, to work with these people. And I'm saying it, and to be together with these people. And I'm saying it, with all sincerity, because that's what makes my life so great. People around me.
Yeah.
It sounds a little bit, it sounds big, but that's truth to it, because it happens every day, every moment.
That's life though, right? Like
It's
that,
life.
yeah, that's the bigger statement. I think like very very large statement. I constantly evaluating like what's the value of the day, what's the value of the moment, because we don't know how long we're going to be here.
No,
So it's people and connection and kindness and right.
right, right, and fun.
Fun.
And sometimes, frankly, let's just be honest. Sometimes people can irritate.
Right.
Sometimes people can make you angry. But even then, you appreciate being around people, because that's adds to my experiences, and that's what makes it, frankly, interesting.
I'm curious because in part if I put myself in the shoes of a franchisee, which majority of franchise owners that get into this space have had some deeply personal experience with caregiving, either for their elderly parents or some sort of connection in. And
Hmm.
we're talking about the value of people and life. How do you navigate that component? Because you are in a business that sees people through the final days of their life. How do you become comfortable with that experience, or how have you gotten comfortable with that experience?
That's a good question. I'm not sure what comfortable even means. Because yes, we see people dying, we see people in the last stages of their life, but we're so much focusing on bringing dignity and respect to those moments that the issue of comfort, frankly, for us, doesn't even come around. It's mostly about service. We're serving them, and that's perhaps just in retrospect. And again, it's not something that I'm thinking about every moment of my life. How am I comfortable? But right now, when I'm speaking to you, Nick, perhaps what comes on me is that's what makes us comfortable. The fact that we are bringing other people so much needed services and care.
I think the term you just said, dignity. I'm curious, like if you go back to the start of this business, and clearly the the value of dignity and the way that we looked at the senior community has changed tremendously. And what you just said is that the depth of service or care in these final moments is also dignity, but it doesn't exist the way that it does when you got into the business. Like, is that part of something that you're proud of because you know, like people talk about impacting people that are alive, and we almost discount impacting people when they're in this final transition. But you've it's come such a long way that dignity is really the key word there, right?
And I'm glad that that's becoming a keyword, because we all have one-way street, each and every one of us.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna give you an example. Recently, and we often have hospice clients. And recently, my new chief operating officer, the nurse, stayed the entire shift. Actually, for the last 2 days, she was working next to caregivers with one of our hospice client, and boy, it just brings tears to my eyes even as I speak about it. And she was sitting and singing together with that person. And when I learned about it, I said, "Listen, that's the way I wanna live, you
Yeah.
know." And I mean, does it make me proud? It makes me proud that I'm surrounding myself with such people. Honestly,
What I love about that story, and again, I'm I'm heavily involved mentally in thinking about how things work. But I think about like how greatly we celebrate birth and how greatly we celebrate grief at death, and what happens when we find dignity and celebration and moments of care at the end of life and almost treat it the same way that we do at the beginning of life. And so when
Right.
you talk about that, you have someone compassion, clearly a good human being, that is finding a pathway to create. It is joy when you're singing with someone. It's joy, no matter what.
Right.
In a difficult time, it's like it was almost it's a celebration that
It's
right.
amazing experience. Amazing experience. That's like I said, that's an experience I want to have in my last minutes.
When you said when you were looking at a business, you said I wanted something that had purpose. Like that, when you think about this moment, like I
Oh
would
yes,
assume this is exactly what you were talking about.
exactly. Yes, of course. That's the purpose. And again, we don't think about it every day. What's my purpose? Because we know it. We live day to day business lives, right? With all plus and minuses of being in business, responsibilities, problems, issues, people, etc. But it's important that we have this mission in front of us at all times. Without it, nothing happens.
Yeah, it goes back to what you said at the beginning. Then it's just
Right?
it's a transactional thing, and if
Right.
it's just transactional, that's fine. And there's plenty of businesses that are transactional, but you didn't get into this to be transactional. You got into this to build something that was bigger than you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What's your dream now? Where does your dream go from here?
My dream, my dream is to continue this for as much as I can and to continue develop the business and myself through the business because I like what I'm doing.
Looking back, do you wish you would have done if this business existed in the type that it existed in? Do you wish you would have done it earlier in your career? Or was the timing right?
Yeah, I usually don't look back like that. I have no regrets. What I did was in the past. I think it's all my previous life in various careers, and I have various many careers. Obviously, you know that I'm an immigrant from another country. I don't have any regrets, and I think all of it prepared me for where I'm right now.
Yeah.
All my previous lives, so it's fine. And by the way, I don't know what this experience prepares me for,
Right. That's right.
but when I find out, I'll let you know.
I love it. Well, look, I'm grateful for the conversation because it feels very real. There's a lot of business conversations that probably don't touch on the realness of life, and it's cool to see what you've been able to accomplish. Like I can appreciate it, but above what you've been able to accomplish from a business standpoint, what you've been able to accomplish from an understanding of life and this whole term of dignity is so impressive. And I'm grateful that you were willing to share some of your story with me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Love it.
Thank
Vlad,
you.
yeah, for Vlad, I'm Nick. This was another episode of Meet the Franchisee.